Hi class! Today I'm going to cover the discussion questions that refer to Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson, two quintessential American poets. They were both very influential on all those who followed them, both American writers and others. Whitman was very long-winded and verbose, as you can tell from his poems, even though we read the shorter poems of his. Dickinson was rather concise and succinct. Let's start with I Heard the Learned Astronomer. This is a poem that takes place in a lecture room where Whitman, or the speaker, the I in the poem, is being lectured to and told about the stars in the sky. He's being told of the theory. By the end of the poem, he moves outside to experience what he calls the mystical moist night air, and from time to time looked up in perfect silence at the stars. This is very much a poem about theory and practice, about imagination and engagement. The dalliance of the eagles. A dalliance is a flirtation. And what is this poet doing? He's stopping by during his afternoon walk and looking up to observe two eagles mating. Lots of images in the poem suggest that gyrating wheel, the talons, the interlocking claws, a living, fierce, gyrating wheel, the amorous contact. Remember, a poet doesn't look away. And I don't think you would look away either if you saw two eagles flying above you, mating at the same time. Now for A Sight in Camp and the Daybreak, Gray and Dim. This is a more somber poem. It's one of Whitman's poems from the Civil War. He was a nurse during the Civil War and witnessed a lot of death. And in this poem we see three pictures of death: an old person, a young person, and a middle-aged person around his own age. And in that last example, he likens that person to Christ. He says, "Young man, I think I know you. I think this face is the face of the Christ himself, dead and divine and brother of all, and here again he lies." In this poem, he's trying to make a connection between, or among like all humans, that death is universal, and that especially during wartime, war doesn't care about age. War doesn't care about anything, whether you're in some cases a combatant or a civilian. And he's illustrating that in this poem. I do encourage you to read more of Walt Whitman. And now for Dickinson. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. Does she go to church, the speaker of this poem? No, she doesn't. She listens to the birds who are in her chorus. She walks under her orchard, which becomes like a dome. And if you can imagine that trees sort of do that thing, you can see right behind me this tree. She suggests in this poem that there's kind of a divinity that can be found in nature, and that perhaps organized religion is something that she doesn't need. She maintains that. God preaches a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along. She really doesn't believe that, salvation depends on institutionalized religion. The brain is wider than the sky. In this poem, Dickinson makes a few comparisons. The brain, or our mind, our capacity for imagination, is greater than the sky. We can imagine more than is out there. The brain is deeper than the sea. Again, it's greater than what's out there. And in that final stanza, the comparison, instead of being a greater than, is an equal to. The brain is just the weight of God. For heft them pound for pound, and they will differ if they do as syllable from sound. She's saying our brains are like God. we're all divine in some way, or there is some kind of sublime in our imagination. I like the look of agony because I know it's true. In this poem, Dickinson discusses the idea that certain emotions cannot be hidden. Pain, for example, a feeling. What happens when you stub your toe? You scream out for a moment. Death, too, is something that cannot be faked. Much madness is divinest sense to a discerning eye. Much sense the starkest madness. 'Tis the majority. In this, as all prevail, assent, and you are sane. Demure, you're straightway dangerous, and handled with a chain. This is kind of a cool poem, too. It's about our perception of sanity. Those who assent or go along with the majority are believed to be sane. Those who demur or shy away from it are crazy. And that's kind of, an age-old notion. And also a universal theme. Conformity versus individuality. Authority versus individuality. It's a theme we've seen before. And also it's the idea, too, that the sanity, mental health is a matter of perspective. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. In this poem, Dickinson suggests that the truth is such a powerful thing that it needs to be handled carefully. That perhaps the truth shouldn't be told bluntly or directly right away. She says success in circuit lies. It may be nice to sugarcoat things, or to tell a white lie occasionally, or to ease the children with a kind explanation of lightning. Otherwise, if the truth is revealed in its starkest, most natural state, every man will be blind. People will be blinded by the light of truth because it's a very powerful notion.